The great museum on Kepler Prime buzzed with excitement. Today was special. Today they would show the galaxy something amazing, something that would change how everyone thought about the past. Dr. Zethkalar stood in front of the crowd. He was tall and thin, with blue skin that shimmered under the lights. His forearms moved as he talked. The Vorthon people were known for being smart. They loved old things. They spent their lives digging up the past. Friends from across the galaxy, Dr. Zethkalar said. His voice was deep and proud. Today we show you something wonderful, something that will make you think differently about time itself. The crowd waited. There were many different kinds of beings here. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked like walking crystals. All of them were important. All of them had come to see this special thing. Behind Dr. Zethkalar was a large glass box. Inside the box, something lay on soft cloth. It was covered by a dark sheet. Everyone stared at the covered shape. We found this in the deep ruins, Dr. Zethkalar continued. The predecessor civilization left it there. Our best machines say it is older than our galaxy. Think about that. This thing was made before our sun was born, before our worlds came to be. A few beings in the crowd made soft sounds. Some were amazed. Some did not believe it. In the back of the crowd, Captain Jake Morrison stood quietly. He was human. Compared to the other beings here, he looked ordinary. He had brown hair and brown eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform. Most of the aliens barely noticed him. Humans were new to this galaxy. They had only been here for a few hundred years. Most other beings thought humans were not very smart. They thought humans were too young to understand important things. Dr. Zethkalar pulled away the dark sheet. The crowd gasped. Under the glass was a sword. It was beautiful. The blade looked like it was made of crystal and metal mixed together. Strange patterns covered the metal. The handle was wrapped in something that looked like leather. The guard between the blade and handle had a special shape. This weapon, Dr. Zethkalar said, is made from materials we do not know. The edge is still sharp after millions of years. Our machines cannot cut it. Our tests cannot hurt it. The metal gives off energy we cannot explain. Jake moved closer. He pushed through the crowd slowly. Other beings did not want to move for a human, but Jake was patient. He kept moving forward. Look at how perfect it is, Dr. Zethkalar said. See these patterns on the blade? They are not random. They mean something, but we do not know what. The beings who made this were very smart, much smarter than us. A being that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch arms. Dr. Zethkalar, it said in a voice like wind through leaves. How do you know this is so old? Good question, Elder Birchmind, Dr. Zethkalar said. We used our best dating machines. We tested the metal. We tested the energy. Everything says the same thing. This sword is 4.7 million years old. It was made before our galaxy looked like it does now. More gasps came from the crowd. A being made of living crystals spoke next. Its voice sounded like music. What civilization could make such things so long ago? The predecessors, Dr. Zethkalar said. We find their ruins everywhere, but we never find anything this perfect, this complete. They were the first smart beings in our galaxy. They built things we still cannot understand. Then they disappeared. We do not know why. Jake was now close to the front. He looked at the sword carefully. His eyes moved over every part of it. The blade, the handle, the guard, the patterns. Something was wrong here, very wrong. Jake knew swords. He had studied them his whole life. His family had collected them for many generations. This sword looked familiar, too familiar. The patterns on the blade, Dr. Zethkalar said, show a level of art we have never seen. The way the metal was folded, the way it was shaped. These predecessors knew secrets we have lost. Jake almost laughed. Almost. But he kept his face calm. He knew those patterns. He had seen them before. In old books, in museums on Earth. The way the metal was folded was not mysterious. It was called pattern welding. Humans had done it for thousands of years. The shape of this weapon, Dr. Zethkalar continued, is unlike anything we know. See how the guard curves? See how the handle fits? This is perfect design. Perfect balance. Now Jake really wanted to laugh. The shape was not mysterious either. It was a longsword. A European longsword. Humans had been making them since their medieval times. But Jake said nothing. He just watched. He listened. We believe, Dr. Zethkalar said, That this weapon belonged to a great warrior, maybe a king, maybe a general, someone very important in predecessor society. Jake looked at the handle again. There, near where the blade met the guard, he saw something. Something very small. Something the alien scientists had missed. It was a mark. A tiny mark pressed into the metal when it was hot. Jake knew what it was. It was a maker's mark. And he could read it. The letters were in English. Jake's heart beat faster. This was not possible. But it was real. He was looking at proof of something that should not exist. Dr. Zethkalar finished his speech. This sword shows us that the predecessors were the greatest civilization ever. We can only hope to understand what they knew. The crowd clapped. Some made other sounds of approval. Jake stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said. Dr. Zethkalar looked down at him. "Yes? That's a nice sword," Jake said. His voice was calm, normal. "Mind if I take a closer look?" Dr. Zethkalar looked surprised. Around them, other beings turned to stare at the human. Some made sounds like laughter. "I am sorry," Dr. Zethkalar said, "but this is a priceless artifact. We cannot let just anyone on." "It's okay," Jake said. He smiled a little. "I understand. It's just that it looks familiar." Now the sounds from the crowd were definitely laughter. A human saying an ancient predecessor artifact looked familiar? It was funny to them, but Jake's smile got a little bigger. He knew something they did not. He knew whose sword this was. The laughter in the room got louder. Many of the alien beings thought Jake was making a joke, a human saying he knew an ancient sword. It was too funny. Dr. Zethkalar looked at Jake with his 4 eyes. "Captain Morrison," he said, "I think you do not understand. This weapon is millions of years old. Your people have only been in space for a few hundred years." "I know," Jake said. He did not look angry. He just looked interested. "But I still think it looks familiar." A large being that looked like a lizard stepped forward. Admiral Crickstar was from the Hegemony battle fleet. He was known for being tough and mean. His scales were dark green and his teeth were sharp. "Human," Admiral Crickstar said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "Your species is young. Very young. You know nothing about ancient times. Stop making jokes." "I'm not making jokes," Jake said. He looked at the sword again. "I'm just saying it looks like something I've seen before." More laughter came from the crowd. But not all of it was friendly now. Some beings were getting annoyed with Jake. A group of beings that looked like walking crystals began to make sounds. Their leader, Shardmine Prime, spoke in a voice like singing glass. "We have calculated the chances," Shardmine Prime said. "The chance that this human knows anything about this artifact is 0.0001%. "It is not possible," Jake nodded. "I understand the math," he said. "But I still think it looks familiar." Dr. Zethkalar was getting frustrated. "Captain Morrison, please. This is a serious scientific presentation. We cannot have interruptions." "I'm not interrupting," Jake said. "I'm just asking questions. Where exactly did you find this sword?" Dr. Zethkalar looked surprised by the question. "In the deep ruins on Centauri 7, in what we believe was a temple. What else did you find with it?" Jake asked. "Some pottery, some metal pieces. Nothing as complete as this." Jake nodded. "And you dated everything using quantum decay analysis?" Now Dr. Zethkalar looked very surprised. Most beings did not know about quantum decay analysis. It was a very advanced way to tell how old things were. "Yes," Dr. Zethkalar said slowly. "How do you know about that?" "I read a lot," Jake said. "Did you test the metal composition?" "Of course, and what did you find?" Dr. Zethkalar was quiet for a moment. He did not like being questioned by a human. But the questions were good questions. "The metal is a mix we have never seen," Dr. Zethkalar said. "Iron and carbon, but also other things. Strange things. We think the predecessors knew how to make metals that we cannot make." Jake smiled a little more. "Iron and carbon, interesting. What percentage of carbon?" "About 1%. And the other metals?" "Small amounts of nickel, chromium, some trace elements we cannot identify." In the crowd, a human woman moved closer. Lisa Carter was a xenoarchaeologist. She studied alien ruins and artifacts. She worked for the Terran colonial fleet, just like Jake. But she was a scientist, not a soldier. Lisa had been listening to Jake's questions. She was starting to think he was not just being difficult. His questions were too good, too specific. "Dr. Zethkalar," Jake said, "did you look at the way the metal was folded?" "Folded?" "The patterns on the blade. They're not just decoration. They show how the metal was worked, how it was made. Dr. Zethkalar looked at the sword again. We know the patterns are complex. Very advanced. They're not advanced, Jake said. They're old-fashioned. The room got very quiet. Even the laughing stopped. What do you mean? Dr. Zethkalar asked. The patterns show pattern welding, Jake said. It's a way humans used to make swords. A long time ago. Before we had modern machines. Admiral Krickstar made a sound like an angry growl. Impossible. This sword is older than your planet. That's what your tests say, Jake agreed. But the way it was made is human. Very human. Lisa Carter stepped forward. Captain Morrison, she said. Are you sure about this? Jake looked at her. Dr. Carter, good to see you here. Yes, I'm sure. Look at the cross guard. See how it curves down slightly? That's a European style. Probably 14th or 15th century design. The what century? Dr. Zethkalar asked. Earth years, Lisa explained. About 600 or 700 years ago, Earth time. The crystal beings made sounds like breaking glass. They were calculating again. This is not possible, Shardmine Prime said. Your dating is wrong. The artifact is millions of years old. Your dating might be right, Jake said. But the sword is still human-made. Dr. Zethkalar was getting angry now. His blue skin was turning darker. Captain Morrison, you are suggesting that humans made this sword millions of years ago. Before your species existed, before your planet existed. This is foolish. I know how it sounds, Jake said, but I also know what I'm looking at. An old being that looked like smoke given shape floated forward. The ethereals were the oldest known species in the galaxy. They had been around for 50,000 years. When an ethereal spoke, everyone listened. Young human, the ethereal said in a voice like wind. We have existed for 50 millennia. In all that time, we have never heard of your kind. You did not exist when we built our first cities. I understand, Jake said. But the sword is still human. The ethereal's smoky form rippled. This was a sign of anger. You claim knowledge you cannot have. This is arrogance. Jake looked around the room. Every being there was staring at him. Most looked angry. Some looked confused. A few looked curious. Dr. Zethkalar, Jake said. Can I ask one more question? Dr. Zethkalar made a sound of frustration. What? Did you look for maker's marks? Maker's marks? Small symbols, usually near the guard or on the tang. Smiths often put their names or marks on their work. Dr. Zethkalar looked at the sword again. We found some small markings, but they are too damaged to read. Too old. Can I see them? No, this artifact is too valuable to risk. Jake nodded. I understand. But if you could read those marks, I bet they would tell you who made this sword. And who do you think made it? Admiral Krickstar asked. His voice was full of sarcasm. Jake looked at the sword one more time. He could see the tiny letters from where he stood. He could read them even though the aliens could not. The maker's mark said R. Walsh, 3rd Expier Force, Ryan Walsh. 3rd Expeditionary Force, Jake knew that name. Every human in the fleet knew that name. It was in their oldest records, their most secret files, I think, Jake said quietly. It was made by a human named Ryan Walsh. The room exploded with noise. Aliens shouted. Some laughed. Some made angry sounds, but Lisa Carter was not laughing. She was staring at Jake with wide eyes. She knew that name too, and she knew what it meant. The noise in the room was very loud. Aliens were shouting at each other. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were still laughing at Jake. Dr. Zethkalar raised all 4 of his arms. Quiet, he shouted. Everyone be quiet. Slowly the room got quiet again. Captain Morrison, Dr. Zethkalar said. His voice was cold now. You have made a very big claim. You say this sword was made by someone named Ryan Walsh. Do you have proof? I might, Jake said. If you let me look at it closer. That is not possible, Dr. Zethkalar said. This artifact is too important, too valuable. Lisa Carter stepped forward. Dr. Zethkalar, she said. I think we should listen to Captain Morrison. Dr. Zethkalar looked at her. Dr. Carter, you are a scientist. Surely you do not believe this human nonsense. I know it sounds crazy, Lisa said. But Captain Morrison knows swords. He has studied them his whole life. If he says this looks human, maybe we should check. Admiral Krickstar made his angry growling sound again. This is waste of time. Humans have been in space for only a few centuries. They know nothing about ancient artifacts. That's what everyone thinks, Jake said. But what if everyone is wrong? The ethereal floated closer. Its smoky form was moving faster now. This meant it was very interested. Young human, the ethereal said. You speak of things that should not be possible.
How do you explain this?
Jake looked at the ethereal. With respect, sir, what if humans are older than you think? The ethereal's form stopped moving. Explain. What if humans didn't start in space a few centuries ago? What if we've been here before? The room got very quiet again. Everyone was listening now. Impossible, Shardmind Prime said. We have records. We know when humans first came to space. We were there. You were there when humans came back to space, Jake said. Not when they first left Earth. Dr. Zethkalar made a sound of frustration. Captain Morrison, this is fantasy. Pure fantasy. There is no evidence that humans ever had an ancient civilization. Isn't there? Jake asked. He looked at the sword again. That sword is evidence. That sword is predecessor technology, Dr. Zethkalar said. What if the predecessors were human? The room exploded with noise again. This time it was louder than before. Aliens were shouting. Some were angry. Some were scared. The idea was too big. Too strange. Lisa Carter moved closer to Jake. Captain, she said quietly, do you really believe this? Jake looked at her. Dr. Carter, you've seen the classified files. You know about the deep archives. Lisa's eyes got wide. She did know about the deep archives. They were secret human files. Very old files. Most people thought they were just stories. You mean the Exodus records? She whispered. I mean all of them, Jake said. The Exodus records. The star maps, the bloodline archives. Now Lisa looked scared. Those were some of humanity's most secret files. Only a few people knew about them. Flo Singer Delphi floated forward. The Aquarian was the museum director. It had stayed quiet during all the arguing, but now it wanted to speak. I have heard enough, Flo Singer Delphi said. Its voice sounded like water over rocks. This argument cannot be solved with words. It needs tests. What kind of tests? Dr. Zethkalar asked. Captain Morrison says there are maker's marks on the sword. Let us see them clearly. Let us analyze them. The marks are too old, Dr. Zethkalar said. Too damaged. Our equipment is very good, Flo Singer Delphi said. We can see things that look damaged. We can read things that look destroyed. Jake nodded. That's all I'm asking for. Let's see what the marks really say. Dr. Zethkalar did not want to do this. But Flo Singer Delphi was the museum director. It was their decision. Very well, Flo Singer Delphi said. We will do detailed scans of the markings. 2 small robots came out of the walls. They moved to the glass case. Very carefully they lifted the sword and put it under a special scanner. The scanner was very powerful. It could see things smaller than atoms. It could read writing that was almost completely worn away. On a big screen, everyone could see what the scanner found. There, near the guard of the sword, were tiny letters. They were very small, so small that normal eyes could not see them, but the scanner made them big enough to read. The letters said, R. Walsh, 3rd Experience Force, Sol date 2847-156. The room was completely silent. Dr. Zethkalar stared at the screen. What does this mean? R. Walsh is Ryan Walsh, Jake said. 3rd Experience Force means 3rd Expeditionary Force. Sol date means Earth calendar date. But this is impossible, Dr. Zethkalar said. The sword is millions of years old. Your dating is right, Jake said. The sword really is that old. But it was made by humans. Admiral Krickstar was staring at the screen too. You are saying humans existed millions of years ago? I'm saying humans existed millions of years ago and made this sword. Lisa Carter was looking at Jake with new eyes. Captain, how do you know about Ryan Walsh? Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because he was my ancestor. More gasps came from the crowd. Your ancestor? Dr. Zethkalar asked. Ryan Walsh was a colonel in the 3rd Expeditionary Force, Jake said. The 3rd Expeditionary Force was part of the first human expansion into space. The real first expansion, millions of years ago. The ethereal floated closer. You are saying that humans had a space civilization millions of years ago? Before we existed? Yes, Jake said. Where is this civilization now? Shardmind Prime asked. Gone, Jake said. Something happened. Something bad. Most of the colonies were lost. The survivors went back to Earth. They forgot most of their technology. They had to start over. This is a story, Admiral Krickstar said. A human story. There is no proof. Jake looked at the sword on the screen. That's proof. Flo Singer Delphi was very interested now. Captain Morrison, if this is true, then everything we know about galactic history is wrong. Not wrong, Jake said. Just incomplete. Dr. Zethkalar was shaking his head. I cannot believe this. There would be more evidence. More artifacts. There is more evidence, Lisa Carter said quietly. Everyone looked at her. Dr. Carter, Flowsinger Delphi asked. Lisa took a deep breath. The Terran colonial fleet has been finding things. For years, ancient human artifacts on planets we're supposed to be visiting for the first time. Ruins that match Earth architecture. Genetic markers in local plants and animals that shouldn't be there. Why haven't you reported this? Dr. Zethkalar asked. We have, Lisa said. But no one believed us. Everyone said we were making mistakes. Reading the data wrong, Jake nodded. Humans have been finding evidence of their ancient civilization for decades. But every time we try to share it, other species say we're wrong. They say humans are too young to have ancient history. The room was very quiet now. Everyone was thinking. Finally, the ethereal spoke. If this is true, it said slowly, then the predecessors were not mysterious aliens. They were ancient humans. That's what I think, Jake said. And that means, Flowsinger Delphi said, that humans are not newcomers to this galaxy. They are the original inhabitants. Jake looked at the sword again. Ryan Walsh's sword. His ancestors' sword were not newcomers, he said. We're coming home. The silence in the room was heavy. Everyone was trying to understand what Jake had just said. The idea was too big, too strange. But the evidence was right there on the screen. Dr. Zethkalar was the first to speak. Captain Morrison, he said slowly, if what you say is true, then we need more proof. Much more proof. What kind of proof? Jake asked. Genetic evidence, Lisa Carter said. If Ryan Walsh was human, there should be human DNA in the sword. Flowsinger Delphi moved closer to the scanner. This is possible. Our equipment can find genetic material even in very old artifacts. But the sword is millions of years old, Admiral Krickstar said. DNA cannot last that long. Normal DNA cannot, Lisa said. But this sword is not normal. The strange metals might have preserved genetic material. Jake nodded. The crystalline matrix in the blade could protect organic compounds for a very long time. Dr. Zethkalar looked surprised again. How do you know about crystalline matrices? I told you, Jake said. I read a lot. Flowsinger Delphi made sounds like water flowing. This meant it was thinking hard. We will do genetic analysis. But this will take time. How much time? Jake asked. Several hours. Maybe a full day. The ethereal floated forward. While we wait, perhaps Captain Morrison can explain more about this ancient human civilization. Jake looked around the room. All the aliens were staring at him. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. Some looked scared. What do you want to know? Jake asked. Everything, the ethereal said. Jake took a deep breath. The records say that humans first left Earth about 4 million years ago. They had developed faster than light travel. They began exploring the galaxy. What did they find? Shardmind Prime asked. Empty worlds. The galaxy was much younger then. Most species hadn't evolved yet. Humans found thousands of worlds that could support life. So they took them, Admiral Krickstar said. It sounded like an accusation. They settled them, Jake corrected. Humans were explorers, not conquerors. They built cities. They terraformed planets. They created trade routes between star systems. Dr. Zethkalar was listening carefully. How large was this civilization? At its peak, maybe 10,000 worlds. Millions of ships. Billions of people. The crystal beings made sounds like breaking glass. They were calculating again. That is larger than our current galactic civilization, Shardmind Prime said. Much larger, Jake agreed. What happened to them? Flowsinger Delphi asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. The records aren't clear. Something called the Great Collapse. Maybe a war. Maybe a plague. Maybe both. In less than a century, the entire civilization fell apart. And the survivors? The ethereal asked. Most died. Some tried to keep the colonies going, but it was too hard. Without the trade routes, without the central government, the colonies couldn't survive. So they came back to Earth, Lisa said. The ones who could, Jake said. But by then, Earth had changed too. The technology was lost. The knowledge was forgotten. Humans had to start over from almost nothing. Admiral Krickstar made his growling sound. This is a nice story. But where is the proof? Where are the ruins? Where are the artifacts? Jake looked at him. You've been studying them for thousands of years. You just didn't know they were human. Dr. Zeth Kalar's four eyes went wide. You mean the predecessor sites? All of them, Jake said. Every predecessor ruin in the galaxy was built by ancient humans. The room erupted with noise again. Aliens were shouting. Some were angry. Some were excited. Some were scared. Flow singer Delphi made loud water sounds until everyone was quiet again. Captain Morrison, it said. This would mean that every archaeological discovery in galactic history needs to be re-examined. Yes, Jake said. My entire career, Dr. Zeth Kalar said quietly. Everything I've studied. Everything I've written. It's all wrong. Not wrong, Jake said. Just misunderstood. You've been studying human artifacts. You just didn't know it. A new voice spoke from the back of the room. He's telling the truth. Everyone turned to look. A tall woman in a human military uniform was walking forward. She had silver hair and serious eyes. Admiral Hayes, Jake said. I didn't know you were here, Admiral. Kate Hayes was the highest-ranking human in the Terran colonial fleet. She rarely left Earth, but she was here now. Came as soon as I heard about Captain Morrison's presentation, she said. Dr. Zeth Kalar looked at her. Admiral Hayes, surely you do not support these wild claims. Admiral Hayes looked at the sword on the scanner. Dr. Zeth Kalar, how many predecessor sites have you studied? 47, he said proudly. And how many showed evidence of the same architectural style? All of them. That's how we know they were built by the same civilization. Human architectural style, Admiral Hayes said. What do you mean? Admiral Hayes walked to the front of the room. Dr. Zeth Kalar, I'm going to show you something. Captain Morrison, please display classification level 7 files. Jake looked surprised. Admiral, are you sure? It's time, she said. Jake took out a small device. He pressed some buttons. Suddenly, the big screen changed. Instead of showing the sword, it showed star maps, hundreds of star maps. These are the human deep archives, Admiral Hayes said. The records we've kept since the first human ships left Earth 4 million years ago. The star maps showed the galaxy as it was millions of years ago. And they showed thousands of worlds marked with human symbols. Every world marked on these maps, Admiral Hayes said, was a human colony. Dr. Zeth Kalar stared at the maps. But these are the same systems where we find predecessor ruins. Exactly, Admiral Hayes said. More maps appeared on the screen. These showed trade routes, military bases, industrial centers, all marked with human symbols. This can't be real, Admiral Krikstar said. How could humans keep records for 4 million years? Very carefully, Admiral Hayes said. The survivors who returned to Earth knew the records were important. They created special archives. They trained people to protect them. For 4 million years, humans have been preserving the memory of their first civilization. The ethereal was moving very fast now. Admiral Hayes, if this is true, why did humans keep it secret? Admiral Hayes looked at the ethereal. Because when humans returned to space, nobody believed us. Every time we tried to share our history, other species said we were making it up. They said humans were too primitive to have ancient records. So you stopped trying, flow singer Delphi said. We decided to wait, Admiral Hayes said. We decided to explore the galaxy again, to find evidence that others would believe. Evidence like that sword, Jake said. Evidence like that sword, Admiral Hayes agreed. Dr. Zeth Kalar was shaking his head. But the dating. Our machines clearly show the sword is millions of years old. Your machines are right, Admiral Hayes said. The sword really is millions of years old. And it really was made by humans. But humans didn't exist millions of years ago, Shardmine Prime said. Admiral Hayes smiled. Humans have existed for millions of years. We just spent most of that time in space. She pressed another button. New images appeared on the screen. These showed genetic data, DNA sequences, family trees that went back thousands of generations. Captain Morrison, Admiral Hayes said, is not just any human. He is a direct descendant of the original colonial families. His genetic markers match samples we've found on dozens of ancient worlds. Jake looked at the genetic data. There was his family tree, going back and back and back, all the way to Ryan Walsh and the 3rd Expeditionary Force. That sword, Admiral Hayes said, belongs to his family. It has been waiting 4 million years for him to claim it. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was staring at the screen, at the genetic data, at the proof that humans were not newcomers to the galaxy. They were the ones who had been here first. They were coming home. The genetic analysis results came back 6 hours later. Flow singer Delphi announced them to the assembled crowd, which had grown larger as news spread throughout the galaxy. The organic material in the sword contains human DNA, Flow singer Delphi said. The genetic markers match Captain Morrison's family line. The DNA is millions of years old, but it is definitely human. Dr. Zethkalar sat down heavily in his chair. His entire life's work had just been turned upside down. I don't understand, he said quietly. How is this possible? Admiral Hayes stepped forward again. Dr. Zethkalar, your work was not wasted. You've been studying human history. You just didn't know it. But the technology, Dr. Zethkalar said. The predecessor sites show technology we don't understand. Technology more advanced than anything we have now. Jake spoke up. That's because we lost most of it during the Great Collapse. When the ancient civilization fell, almost all the knowledge went with it. Almost all? The ethereal asked. Admiral Hayes nodded. Some knowledge survived, hidden in the deep archives, passed down through special families. We've been slowly rediscovering our own technology. That's why human expansion has been so fast, Lisa Carter said. We're not exploring unknown territory. We're returning to worlds our ancestors built. Admiral Crickstar had been very quiet during all of this. Now he spoke and his voice was different. Less angry. More worried. Admiral Hayes, he said. If humans are reclaiming their ancient territory, what does this mean for the rest of us? Admiral Hayes looked at him. What do you think it means? War, Admiral Crickstar said simply. You will want your old worlds back. You will fight us for them, will we? Admiral Hayes asked. Jake stepped forward. Admiral Crickstar, humans have been living alongside other species for centuries. Have we been aggressive? Have we tried to conquer anyone? Admiral Crickstar thought about this. Humans had been in space for several hundred years. They had built colonies, established trade routes, joined galactic organizations, but they had never tried to conquer other species. No, he said slowly. You have not. That's because ancient humans weren't conquerors either, Admiral Hayes said. The records show that when ancient humans found other intelligent species, they made friends with them. They shared technology. They helped them develop. You mean the predecessors were friendly? Dr. Zethkalar asked. The predecessors were human, Jake said. And humans have always been better at making friends than making enemies. Flow singer Delphi made sounds like rushing water. Admiral Hayes, if humans have access to ancient technology, why have you not shared it? Admiral Hayes was quiet for a moment. Because we needed to know if the galaxy was ready for it. Ready for what? Shardmind Prime asked. For the truth. For cooperation. For the responsibility that comes with advanced technology. Admiral Hayes pressed more buttons on Jake's device. New images appeared on the screen. These showed locations throughout the galaxy. Hidden bases, secret facilities, ancient repositories. The ancient humans didn't just leave ruins, Admiral Hayes said. They left treasure vaults, technology caches, knowledge repositories, hidden all over the galaxy. The aliens in the room stared at the screen. There were hundreds of locations marked. For 4 million years, Admiral Hayes continued, these repositories have been waiting for humans to return, waiting for the galaxy to prove itself worthy of advanced technology. Worthy how? The ethereal asked. By learning to work together, Jake said. By choosing cooperation over conquest. By proving that advanced technology won't be used for destruction. Admiral Hayes nodded. The ancient humans fell because they fought among themselves. They developed technology faster than wisdom. We don't want that to happen again. Dr. Zethkalar looked up from his chair. Are you saying that you've been testing us? We've been watching, Admiral Hayes said. For centuries, humans have been observing how other species behave, how they treat each other, how they use technology. And what have you decided? Flowsinger Delphi asked. Admiral Hayes looked around the room, at the ethereals with their ancient wisdom, at the crystal beings with their mathematical minds, at the aquatic Flowsinger with their peaceful nature, even at Admiral Crickstar with his warrior's honor. We've decided that the galaxy has grown wise, she said. Wise enough to handle the truth. Wise enough to use ancient technology responsibly. She pressed one more button. The screen showed a star map of the entire galaxy, but this time it showed more than just ancient human colonies. It showed trade routes between species, alliance networks, cooperative research stations. The ancient humans built the foundation, Admiral Hayes said. but you've all built something better on top of it. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. Jake walked over to the sword. The museum's security systems recognized his genetic signature and allowed him to approach. This sword, he said, picking it up carefully, belonged to Colonel Ryan Walsh of the 3rd Expeditionary Force. He was my ancestor. But more than that, he was a bridge between the ancient past and the modern galaxy. The sword felt right in Jake's hands, like it belonged there. Colonel Walsh believed that humans should explore the galaxy not to conquer it, but to understand it, to find friends among the stars, to build something bigger than any one species could build alone. Jake looked around the room. That's what we've all done. Together, we've built a galactic civilization that the ancient humans would be proud of. Admiral Hayes stepped beside him. The Terran colonial fleet is prepared to share the locations of the ancient repositories. All of them, but only if the galaxy agrees to use the technology for peaceful purposes. What kind of technology? Dr. Zeth Keller asked. Medical advances that could eliminate disease, Admiral Hayes said. Energy systems that could power entire worlds without pollution. Transportation methods that could cut travel time between galaxies to days instead of years. The room was very quiet. Everyone was thinking about what this meant. Finally, the ethereal spoke. Admiral Hayes, what do you want from us? Partnership, Admiral Hayes said. The ancient humans tried to build a galactic civilization alone. They failed. But together, all of us working as equals, we could build something that would last forever. Flow singer Delphi made sounds like gentle waves. The Aquarian people accept this partnership. The ethereals agree, the ancient being said. The shard minds calculate a high probability of success, Shard Mind Prime announced. Dr. Zeth Keller stood up. The Vorthon Archaeological Council would be honored to help study the ancient repositories. All eyes turned to Admiral Krickstar. The warrior species had the most to lose from a peaceful galaxy, or the most to gain. Admiral Krickstar was quiet for a long time. Then he said, the Hegemony battle fleet pledges to protect these repositories, and to use their technology only for defense and exploration. Admiral Hayes smiled. Then it's decided. Welcome to the new age of galactic cooperation. Jake held up the sword. The metal caught the light and seemed to glow with its own inner fire. Colonel Walsh, he said quietly. Mission accomplished. The galaxy is ready. As Jake spoke, the sword's energy readings changed. The strange patterns on the blade began to glow softly, as if the weapon itself was responding to being reunited with its rightful owner. And somewhere in the metal's crystalline matrix, 4 million years of genetic memory stirred. The sword remembered its maker. It remembered its purpose. It remembered coming home. Dr. Zeth Keller approached Jake carefully. Captain Morrison, he said, I owe you an apology, and I have a request. What's that? Would you help me rewrite the history books? I think I have a lot to learn about the predecessors. Jake smiled. Dr. Zeth Keller, I think we all have a lot to learn. About the past, about each other, and about what we can build together. He looked around the room one more time, at the aliens who were no longer strangers but partners, at the sword that was no longer a mysterious artifact but a family heirloom finally returned home. The ancient humans always believed that the best discoveries aren't found in the past, Jake said. They're built in the future. And with that, Jake Morrison walked out of the museum, carrying his ancestor's sword and the promise of a new age for the galaxy. Behind him, the greatest minds of a dozen species began planning not just for tomorrow, but for the next 4 million years. The humans had come home, and they had brought the entire galaxy with them.